Hello, my friend. Welcome back to JBC English Learning Academy. The place where your English grows, one story at a time. Today, it was a quiet morning when Emma stepped off the train. The air felt different. Fresh, but full of noise. People were talking, laughing, walking fast, all in English. She looked around, pulling her small suitcase behind her, and whispered to herself, "This is it. My new life." She had dreamed of this for years, living in a big English-speaking city, finding a new job, making new friends, starting fresh. But as she listened to people talking around her, her excitement began to fade. The words flew by so quickly. She could understand some of them, but not all. Some phrases sounded strange, some words were completely new. She tried to smile, pretending to feel confident. But inside, her heart was racing. What if I don't understand people? What if they laugh when I speak? What if my accent sounds strange? Emma found a small cafe near the train station. She wanted a cup of coffee and maybe a little courage. She walked in, smiling at the man behind the counter. "Hi," she said softly. "Can I have, one coffee, please?" The man smiled. "Sure. What kind?" Emma froze. "What kind?" He pointed at the menu: latte, cappuccino, espresso, americano, so many choices. She quickly pointed to the first one. "That one, please." The man nodded. "A latte. Got it." When he handed her the cup, he said something friendly, but too fast. Emma just smiled again. "Thank you." She sat near the window and looked outside. "Why do I feel so small?" she thought. "I studied English for years. I can read, I can write, but when people speak, I lose control." Her coffee was warm, but her heart felt cold. She wanted to be brave, but fear spoke louder. That night, in her small rented room, Emma opened her notebook. On the first page, she wrote one sentence: "Focus on progress, not perfection." It was something her teacher once said back in her hometown. But at that time, she didn't really understand what it meant. Now, sitting alone, surrounded by a city that moved faster than her thoughts, those words felt important. She decided something simple that night: she would try. She wouldn't try to be perfect. She would just try to move forward, one small step every day. The next morning, Emma walked to the supermarket. She needed food, but she also wanted to practice speaking. She told herself, it's okay to make mistakes. People will understand. Inside, she saw rows of fruits, vegetables, and shelves full of words she didn't know. She picked up a basket and started walking. An old woman beside her smiled and said, "Excuse me, dear, could you pass me that bag?" Emma blinked. "Bag?" she asked. The woman pointed. "That one, yes, thank you." Emma handed her the bag, and the woman smiled warmly. "You're so kind. Have a lovely day." It was such a small thing, but to Emma, it was huge. Someone had spoken to her. She had answered. And it worked. She felt a tiny sparkle of confidence. Later, as she stood in the checkout line, the cashier said, "Hi, how are you today?" Emma hesitated. What should I say? She quickly remembered what she'd heard before. "I'm fine, thank you." "And you?" The cashier smiled. "I'm great, thanks." That simple exchange, only 6 words, made Emma's heart feel light. It was progress. Tiny progress. That evening, she wrote in her notebook again. "I spoke with someone at the store. I understood small talk. I didn't feel afraid." She looked at the 3 sentences and smiled. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. She started thinking about all the times she didn't speak because she was scared of mistakes. She remembered her English class at school, when she used to stay silent while others spoke. She always waited until she was sure her grammar was right, her pronunciation was clean. But now she realized that waiting never helped her grow. She whispered to herself, Perfection stops progress, but mistakes create learning. That was her new rule. A week passed. Emma began exploring the city more. She talked to people at cafes, in shops, on buses. Sometimes she made mistakes, sometimes big ones, but she learned to laugh about them. One day, a man at a bookstore asked, "Do you need any help?" Emma said confidently, "Yes, I'm looking for a book about learn English." The man smiled kindly. "Oh, you mean a book to learn English?" Emma laughed. "Yes, that one." They both laughed together. That moment changed something inside her. She realized that people didn't care if she made mistakes. Most people were kind, patient, even happy to help. What mattered was her courage to try. That night, Emma stood in front of the mirror. She looked at herself and said out loud, slowly and clearly, "I'm learning English. I make mistakes. And that's okay. Because every mistake means I'm improving." She repeated the sentence 3 times. And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. I'm learning English. I make mistakes. And that's okay. Every mistake means I'm improving. Say it slowly, with feeling. Because when you speak with confidence, your words start to sound alive. That night, Emma fell asleep with a smile. For the first time since she arrived, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. She knew she wasn't perfect. But she was moving forward. And that was enough. The next few days were quiet. Emma tried to keep busy, walking through new streets, visiting the library, cooking simple meals. But every time she heard people speaking English around her, she felt something strange inside. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was pressure. A soft voice inside her head kept whispering, "You should be better by now. You've studied for years. Why are you still slow?" One afternoon, she sat on a park bench watching children play. Their laughter was light and easy. They weren't afraid of mistakes. They didn't stop before speaking. They just tried freely. Emma sighed and thought, "Why can't I speak like that? Why do adults become afraid of being wrong?" She took out her small notebook again, her English notebook, and wrote another sentence. "Don't wait for perfect English. Speak the English you have." That night, she decided to push herself. She searched online for local English conversation clubs. She found one near her house. Every Thursday evening, people gathered in a cafe to practice English together. Her heart beat faster as she read the details. "Join us for friendly English conversation. Everyone welcome. Everyone welcome," she whispered. "Maybe that means me too." Thursday came. Emma stood in front of her mirror again, trying to practice what she would say. "Hi, my name is Emma. I'm learning English." She repeated it 5 times. Then she smiled nervously. "Okay, that's not too bad." When evening came, she almost didn't go. She looked out the window, saw the dark sky, and told herself, maybe next week. "I'm tired today." But then she saw her notebook lying on the table, the page where she had written, "Focus on progress, not perfection." She took a deep breath, put on her coat, and whispered, "Let's go." The cafe was warm and full of light. People sat in small groups, laughing and talking in English. Some sounded fluent. Others spoke slowly, carefully, like her. A woman at the door smiled and said, "Hi, are you here for the English club?" Emma nodded. "Yes. Great. Come join us. My name's Sarah." Sarah led her to a table with 3 other people, a man from Japan, a woman from Brazil, and a student from Spain. They all looked a little nervous too. Sarah said cheerfully, "Okay, everyone, let's start with introductions. Say your name, where you're from, and one thing you like." When it was Emma's turn, her hands were shaking. She smiled softly and said, "Hello, my name is Emma. I'm from Poland. I like reading books." Her voice was quiet but clear. The group smiled and clapped gently. Sarah said, "Wonderful. Welcome, Emma." Emma's heart felt warm. For the first time, people were listening to her English and not judging her. The group started talking about simple topics, favorite food, travel dreams, weekend plans. Emma listened carefully, trying to understand every word. Sometimes she got lost, but when she didn't understand, she asked, "Sorry, can you say it again?" No one laughed. They just smiled and repeated slowly. She realized something that night. People didn't expect her to be perfect. They only wanted her to be present. When it was her turn to ask a question, she said shyly, "What food you like most?" The man from Japan smiled and said, you mean, what food do you like the most?" Emma laughed. "Yes, that." Everyone laughed gently, and the moment felt warm and real. For the first time, her mistake didn't hurt. It connected her with people. After the club ended, Sarah came to her and said, "Emma, you speak very clearly. You just need more confidence." Emma smiled. "I feel afraid sometimes." Sarah nodded. "That's normal. Confidence doesn't come before speaking. It comes after speaking." Those words stayed in Emma's heart. Confidence doesn't come before speaking. It comes after speaking. When she walked home that night, the city lights looked different. The streets weren't so scary anymore. She realized she had spent so many months waiting until she was ready, until her grammar was perfect, until her accent sounded right. But the truth was simple. You never feel ready until you start. At home, she sat by her window and whispered, "I spoke today. I made mistakes. And I survived." Then she smiled and wrote in her notebook again. "I spoke with 4 new people. I asked questions. I felt nervous, but I didn't stop." Confidence comes after speaking. She drew a little star next to that line. The next day, she felt brave enough to do something new. She called her landlord. Normally, she would text him if something broke in the apartment. But this time, she decided to speak. The sink was leaking, so she picked up her phone and said to herself, "Okay, just simple words." When he answered, she said, "Hello, this is Emma. The sink, it's leaking. Can you help?" He replied kindly, "Oh, the sink is leaking? Sure, I'll come tomorrow morning." Emma said, "Thank you very much." When the call ended, she almost laughed with joy. It was just a short conversation, but she did it. Later that evening, she opened her window. The wind outside felt soft, and she thought about her journey so far. 2 weeks ago, she couldn't even order coffee without fear. Now, she was talking to strangers, asking for help, joining conversations. Not perfectly, but confidently. She smiled at the stars and said softly, "I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm not perfect, and I don't need to be." Mini listening practice. Repeat after Emma. Confidence comes after speaking. I'm learning. I'm growing. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to keep going. Speak slowly. Feel every word. This is how confidence begins, not in silence, but in sound. That night, before sleeping, Emma opened her notebook again. She added one more sentence. Every small step is still progress. She closed the book, turned off the light, and whispered, "Good night, new me." It was Saturday morning, and the city was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you think about everything. Emma woke up early. She made herself some tea, sat by the window, and looked out at the soft gray sky. She thought about how far she had come in just a few weeks. A small smile touched her face. But deep inside, a familiar feeling was returning, the fear of making mistakes. She thought about her English class back in school. Every time she said something wrong, the teacher corrected her in front of everyone. Her classmates laughed. That memory still lived somewhere deep inside her, whispering, "Don't make mistakes. People will laugh again." She sighed and whispered, "No, not anymore. Mistakes help me grow now." But she didn't fully believe it yet. Not until life taught her again. That afternoon, she decided to go to the bank. She needed to open a new account. She felt nervous, but said to herself, "It's okay. I can do it. I will use simple words." Inside the bank, everything looked serious, people in suits, long lines, and quiet voices. She walked to the counter and said politely, "Hello, I want to open a new bank account, please." The man behind the counter looked up with a professional smile. "Oh, you want to open a new bank account?" Emma nodded. "Yes, open new account." He handed her some papers. "Please fill out this form and bring your ID." She sat down and started writing. Some parts of the form were confusing. She didn't understand words like current, savings, residential address. Her heart started beating fast. She didn't want to ask for help. She didn't want to look stupid. But then she remembered her notebook, the words she had written. Every small step is progress. She took a deep breath, walked back to the counter, and said softly, "Excuse me, I don't understand this word, residential." The man smiled kindly. "Oh, it just means your home address, where you live." Emma smiled in relief. "Ah, thank you. Home address. Okay." That moment felt small, but it meant everything. She had faced her fear. She had asked for help. And she realized something powerful. Asking for help is not weakness, it's courage. Later, when she finished, she thanked the man again. "Thank you very much for your help." He smiled. "You're welcome. And your English is good, by the way." Her eyes lit up. "Really?" "Really," he said. "You speak clearly. You just need practice." Those few words made her whole day brighter. That evening, Emma met her friend from the English club, Maria. They sat in a small restaurant, laughing softly as they looked at the menu. Maria said, "Let's practice English when we order." Emma laughed. "Okay, you first." When the waiter came, Maria said confidently, "Can I have the chicken salad, please?" Then it was Emma's turn. She looked at the waiter and said, "I want one. Pasta with tomato, please." The waiter smiled. "Sure. Would you like something to drink?" Emma said quickly, "Yes, I want juice orange." The waiter paused. "Orange juice." Emma nodded and laughed. "Yes, orange juice." Maria laughed too, and Emma covered her face with her hands. "Oh no, I said it wrong." Maria smiled. "It's okay. He understood you. That's what matters." Emma looked around and noticed something. No one was staring. No one was laughing. The world didn't end because she said juice orange. It was just a small mistake and a small lesson. She realized mistakes are like little teachers. Every time she made one, she learned something new. After dinner, Maria said, "You know, when I first came here, I was too afraid to talk. My grammar was terrible. But one day, I stopped caring. I just spoke. And that's when I started to improve." Emma nodded. "Yes. I think same. Before, I wanted to be perfect. Now, I want to be brave." They walked home together, the street lights glowing softly above them. The city didn't feel so big anymore. It felt like home, a place full of lessons, not judgments. That night, when Emma got home, she opened her notebook again. She drew a small heart and wrote, "Mistakes are not failures. They are proof that I'm trying." She read it out loud, slowly. "Mistakes are not failures. They are proof that I'm trying." She repeated it again and again, like a small prayer. The words felt warm, like a soft light inside her chest. A few days later, she decided to test herself. She joined an online English group where people from different countries practiced speaking together on video. When her turn came, her hands were shaking again. The topic was dream jobs. She smiled nervously and said, "My dream job is to be a travel writer. I write stories about people and places." The group listened. One man said kindly, "Oh, you mean I like to write stories?" Emma nodded. "Yes, I like to write stories." She finished her turn, and everyone clapped virtually. Someone in the chat wrote, "You sound very confident." Emma laughed. "Confident? Me?" But she realized, yes, maybe she was. Because confidence doesn't mean speaking perfectly. Confidence means speaking even when you're not perfect. Mini listening practice. Repeat after Emma. Mistakes are my teachers. Asking for help is courage. Confidence means trying, not being perfect. Every time I speak, I grow. Say these lines out loud. Slowly. Clearly. With heart. Because when you say them with meaning, your English and your confidence start to sound real. That night, before sleeping, Emma looked at her reflection again. Her eyes looked different now, softer, but stronger. She said quietly, I used to hate my mistakes. But now I thank them. They show me who I'm becoming. She turned off the light. Outside, the city whispered softly through the window. And Emma fell asleep, smiling, because she finally understood. Progress doesn't come from perfection. It comes from courage. The morning sun touched Emma's face as she opened her window. The sky was blue and the air felt full of promise. She stretched her arms and smiled. Good morning, world, she whispered. Let's practice English again. Every morning now, Emma spoke to herself in English. Not because someone told her to, but because she enjoyed it. She would say simple things like, today I will go to work. I feel happy today. It's a beautiful morning. Her voice sounded shy at first, but slowly, it became clearer, warmer, stronger. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to speak. That day, she had her first job interview in English. It wasn't a big company, just a small bookstore near the train station. But to her, it felt like the biggest moment of her life. She practiced the night before. She looked in the mirror and said again and again, my name is Emma. I love reading books. I believe every story can teach us something. She laughed at herself sometimes, but she didn't stop. When she walked into the bookstore the next morning, she was nervous but calm. The manager, a kind-looking man in his 40s, smiled and said, Hi, you must be Emma. She nodded. Yes, that's me. Please have a seat, he said. He started with small talk. So, tell me a bit about yourself. Emma took a deep breath and began. Well, I'm from Poland. I moved here 3 months ago. I love reading stories and helping people find books they like. Her words were simple, but real. The manager nodded. That's great. What kind of books do you enjoy? Emma smiled. I like books about people. About real life. Books that make me think and feel. She didn't speak fast. She didn't try to sound fancy. She spoke from her heart. After the interview, the manager said, Your English is good, Emma. You speak clearly. I think our customers will like you. Her eyes widened. Really? Thank you so much. When she left the bookstore, she almost danced on the street. She laughed out loud and said to herself, I did it. I spoke with confidence. She knew she didn't say everything perfectly. She had used simple grammar, small words, and maybe even made a few mistakes. But none of that mattered because she had spoken bravely and honestly. That evening, she met Maria again for coffee. Emma told her everything. Maria smiled. I'm so proud of you. You didn't just speak English, you shared yourself. Emma nodded. Yes, I think. I finally found my voice. Maria raised her cup. To progress, not perfection. Emma laughed and raised hers too. To progress. A few days later, she got a call from the bookstore. Hi, Emma, the manager said. We'd like to offer you the job. Can you start next Monday? Emma couldn't believe it. Yes, I can. When the call ended, she shouted with joy, I got the job. Her small apartment echoed with her laughter. She ran to her notebook and wrote in big letters, I found my voice. Her first day at work was exciting and a little scary. She stood behind the counter, smiling at customers. Some spoke fast, some had strong accents. At first, she couldn't understand everything. But instead of panicking, she said calmly, "Sorry, can you say that again, please?" And people smiled. They repeated their words. They didn't get annoyed. They understood. One man said, "You're new here, right?" Emma nodded. "Yes, I'm new. But I love this place." He smiled. "That's good. You're doing great." She felt her heart grow warm. This was it, real English, real connection. Not perfect grammar. Not long, difficult words. Just simple, human communication. Later that day, a little girl came into the shop with her mother. The girl looked shy, hiding behind her mom's coat. Emma smiled and knelt down a little. "Hi there. Do you like books?" The girl nodded. "Yes." Emma said softly, "I liked books when I was small too." "What's your favorite story?" The girl whispered, "Cinderella." Emma smiled. Ah, the brave girl who never gave up. She believed in herself. The girl smiled back, her eyes lighting up. The mother said, "You're very good with children." Emma blushed. "Thank you. I just love stories." That night, as she walked home, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. She realized that speaking English was no longer a fear. It was a bridge that connected her to the world and to herself. She thought about all the times she had stayed silent because she was scared. And now she was speaking every day, not because she was perfect, but because she had learned that speaking is about sharing, not showing off. At home, she turned on some English music and sang along. Her voice wasn't perfect, but it was real. She laughed at the wrong notes, but kept singing anyway. She remembered Sarah's words from the English club: "Confidence doesn't come before speaking. It comes after speaking." Now she finally understood. Confidence is not something you wait for. Confidence is something you build, one word at a time. Mini listening practice. Repeat after Emma. I found my voice. Confidence grows when I speak. I don't need perfect English to connect. Speaking is sharing, not showing. Say it slowly. Say it proudly. Feel how your voice carries your story. Before sleeping, Emma opened her notebook again. She looked at all her notes, small, simple sentences that told the story of her progress. Page after page, she saw how far she had come. She wrote one more line before turning off the light: "My voice is my progress." She smiled, closed the notebook, and whispered, "Good night, confidence." And for the first time, she felt truly proud, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. For weeks, everything felt perfect. Emma loved her new job at the bookstore. Every morning she greeted customers with a smile, said "Good morning," and helped them find books. She learned new words every day. She laughed with her coworkers. She even started thinking in English, sometimes small thoughts, like "I need more milk," or "That story was beautiful." But life, as always, likes to test us when we feel strong. One rainy afternoon, the store was busy. People came in with wet umbrellas, talking fast, asking questions. Emma tried to help everyone, but one customer spoke so quickly that she couldn't catch the words. "Do you have the new biography of, Jonathan Greenfield?" "It's out today," the man said. His voice was fast, his tone impatient. Emma froze. "Jonathan Greenfield?" She tried to repeat, "Sorry, can you say again?" He sighed. "Jonathan Greenfield. The new book. Everyone's talking about it." Emma felt her cheeks burn. She typed something into the computer, but she spelled the name wrong. No, the man said sharply. "That's not it." Her heart started beating faster. People in the line looked at her. She felt small again, like that first day in the city. Finally, another coworker came to help. Yes. The Greenfield biography, we have 2 copies left." The man smiled at the coworker and said, "Thanks. You saved me time." Emma smiled weakly, but inside, her confidence cracked. She whispered to herself, I knew it. My English is still bad. That evening, she walked home slowly under the rain. The sound of the city was heavy car horns, wet footsteps, distant voices. Each sound reminded her of the words she didn't understand. When she got home, she took off her wet coat and sat on the bed. Her notebook lay open on the table, full of hopeful words. I found my voice. Confidence comes after speaking. But tonight, those sentences felt far away. She whispered, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was just lucky before. The next morning, she didn't want to go to work. She stood in front of the mirror, her reflection quiet and sad. She said softly, why do I forget so easily? Why can't I speak fast like them? Her eyes filled with tears. But then she remembered something her teacher once said, confidence is not never falling. It's learning to stand up again. She wiped her eyes and said to herself, okay, I will go. I will face today. At the bookstore, she felt nervous. Every time a customer spoke quickly, her heart jumped. She made small mistakes, giving wrong directions, forgetting words, mixing tenses. By lunchtime, she wanted to cry again. Then her coworker, Ben, noticed her quiet face. Hey, Emma, you okay? He asked. She forced a smile. Yes, I'm fine. Just tired. Ben shook his head. You know, everyone makes mistakes here, even me. Remember last week when I charged a man twice for the same book? Emma laughed softly. Yes, I remember. Ben smiled. Exactly. You didn't laugh at me, you helped me fix it. So don't be too hard on yourself. Something about his words made her feel lighter. Maybe she wasn't alone after all. That evening, after work, she didn't go home right away. She walked into a small park nearby. The rain had stopped, and everything smelled clean. She sat on a wet bench and looked up at the sky. The clouds were moving slowly, and behind them, she could see a few stars trying to shine through. She took out her notebook again. The pages were slightly wet from her bag, but she didn't care. She turned to a new page and wrote, falling down is not failure. Staying down is. She read the sentence again, slowly, feeling its truth. She remembered her first day at the cafe, how scared she was to order coffee. She remembered the English club, how her hands shook the first time she spoke. And she smiled. She had already fallen many times before, and she always stood up again. So why should this time be different? The next day, she went back to work with a new idea. She told herself, if I don't understand, I'll ask. If I make mistakes, I'll laugh. In the afternoon, the same man from before, the impatient customer, came back. Emma's heart skipped a beat. But this time, she smiled. Hello again. Did you like the Jonathan Greenfield book? The man looked surprised. Oh, you remember me? Yes, Emma said confidently. Last time little mistake, but now I remember your book. He laughed. That's okay. You did great. They talked for a minute about the book, and by the end, the man said, you have a great memory. Emma smiled. Thank you. I'm learning, little by little. And just like that, the fear disappeared. That night, she sat by the window again with a cup of tea. The rain had stopped completely now. The city lights reflected on the wet streets like golden rivers. She whispered, sometimes confidence leaves. But it always comes back when I keep going. She opened her notebook and wrote, I made a mistake. I felt bad, but I tried again. And now I feel stronger. She looked at the list and smiled. It wasn't a perfect day, but it was a brave one. Mini listening practice. Repeat after Emma. Falling down is not failure. Staying down is. Confidence can fall, but it can rise again. I'm stronger each time I try. Say these slowly, like you're talking to yourself after a hard day. Because every time you speak words of courage, you rebuild your confidence. Before sleeping, Emma whispered one last line into the quiet air. I'm not afraid of mistakes anymore. I'm afraid of stopping. And that night, she slept peacefully because she finally knew progress is not a straight line. It's a dance forward, backward, sideways, but always moving. Spring came softly to the city. The trees outside the bookstore turned green again, and the air smelled of fresh rain. Emma's life had changed in small, gentle ways. She still worked at the bookstore, but now she spoke to more people, smiled more, and laughed more. She was not perfect, she still made mistakes, but she no longer feared them. Every morning, when she walked through the glass doors, she whispered to herself, "Today, I will speak. I will try." One day, a new coworker joined the bookstore. Her name was Lena, a quiet woman from Spain. She looked nervous, just like Emma had been months ago. Her English was soft and hesitant. When the manager introduced her, Lena smiled shyly and said, "Nice to meet you all." Her voice trembled a little. Emma saw herself in Lena. That fear. That small, careful smile. Later, during lunch, Emma sat next to her. "Hi, Lena," she said warmly. "First day?" "Yes," Lena replied. "I'm little nervous." Emma smiled. "Don't worry. I was same before." Lena looked surprised. "Really? But your English is so good." Emma laughed. "It was not before. I used to forget every word. I was afraid to speak." Lena's eyes softened. "What did you do?" Emma thought for a moment, then said, "I stopped trying to be perfect. I just tried to speak again and again." Lena smiled for the first time that day. "That's good advice." Emma nodded. "It works. You'll see." And that moment, that small, simple conversation, was the start of something beautiful. Over the next few weeks, Emma helped Lena with English phrases at work. When a customer came in and asked something quickly, Emma would whisper the meaning to Lena. They laughed together when they made mistakes. Once, a customer asked for a classic romance novel with a modern twist. Lena whispered, "What is twist?" Emma said softly, "It means surprise, something unexpected." Lena nodded, understanding. Later, Lena said, "I learn more from you than from my English book." Emma smiled. "I think real learning happens when we live it, not just read it." One quiet afternoon, when there were no customers, Emma told Lena her story about the cafe, the fear, the rain, and the notebook full of hope. Lena listened carefully, her eyes bright. When Emma finished, Lena said, "Your story gives me courage. I feel I can do it too." Emma felt something warm inside her chest. For the first time, she realized her mistakes, her struggles, her fears, they had meaning. They weren't just problems. They were bridges, connecting her to others who felt the same. That night, Emma went home and opened her notebook again. She turned to a clean page and wrote, "Every time I share my story, someone feels less alone." She thought about it for a while. All this time, she had focused on her own progress, learning English, becoming confident. But now she understood something deeper. When you help someone else grow, your own confidence grows faster. A few days later, the manager asked Emma to do something new. "Emma," he said, "we want to start a small book talk event here every Friday. Just a short talk about your favorite book. Would you like to try?" Emma froze for a moment. Speak in front of people? Her heart jumped, but this time, not from fear, but excitement. She smiled slowly and said, "Yes, I'd love to try." That Friday, a small group of customers gathered near the reading corner. Lena stood beside her, giving a little thumbs up. Emma held her notebook, but she didn't read from it. She looked at the people, took a deep breath, and began. "Hello, everyone. My name is Emma. I work here at the bookstore. Today, I want to share a book that helped me when I felt lost." Her voice was calm and clear. She talked about a book called The Courage to Begin. She shared how one line changed her life. You don't need to be perfect to start. You just need to start. People listened quietly. Some smiled. Some nodded. When she finished, they clapped softly, not loud, but warm, honest applause. Lena whispered, "You did amazing." Emma smiled. "I almost forgot I was nervous." After the talk, an older woman came to her and said, "Your English is beautiful because it's real. You speak with heart." That night, Emma couldn't stop smiling. She had spoken in front of a group. She had inspired others not because she was perfect, but because she was real. She wrote in her notebook again. "I spoke in public. I didn't hide my mistakes. People listened. I felt proud." Then she added one more line. "When you help others, your own fear becomes smaller." Days turned into weeks, and more people joined the Friday book talks. Lena gave one too, talking about a Spanish novel. Emma sat in the audience, clapping proudly. She saw how far they both had come, two people who once feared English, now sharing stories in it. And she realized something powerful. Confidence grows faster when it's shared. Like light, when you pass it to another person, it doesn't fade. It doubles. Mini listening practice. Repeat slowly. My story can help someone. Sharing gives me strength. Confidence grows when shared. I don't need to be perfect to inspire. Practice these with calm breathing. Feel each word. This is not just English practice, it's emotional practice. That night, before sleeping, Emma whispered, "I am no longer learning English to impress people. I'm learning to connect." And that simple sentence changed everything. One quiet Sunday morning, the city was still asleep. The streets were empty, the air cool and soft. Emma sat by her window with a cup of tea and watched the sky change color from gray to gold. It had been almost a year since she first arrived in this city. A year filled with fear, mistakes, laughter, and learning. She looked at the small notebook that had followed her everywhere. The first page still had shaky handwriting. "I want to speak English with confidence." She smiled gently. She remembered the girl who wrote that, the one who whispered in the mirror, the one who was scared to order coffee, scared to say a word wrong. And now here she was sitting calmly, sipping tea, thinking in English. Not perfectly, but naturally. That afternoon, she went for a walk through the park. The same park where, months ago, she had written, "Falling down is not failure." Children were playing, people were laughing, and a small group was speaking in different languages. She listened for a moment and smiled. Language. It was everywhere, not as something perfect, but as something alive. Everyone had an accent. Everyone made mistakes. Yet everyone understood each other. She thought, maybe language is not about being correct. Maybe it's about being connected. She sat on her favorite bench, opened her notebook, and started writing again. Perfection is like the horizon, beautiful, but always far away. Progress is the step you take today, even if it's small. She paused and looked at those words. They felt true, not just about English, but about life itself. She thought of her first job at the cafe, the spilled coffee, the embarrassment. She thought of her first conversation at the English club, the shaking hands, the missing words. She thought of the day she cried in the rain, believing she was not good enough. And then she thought of today, calm, smiling, still learning. All of it was progress. Every mistake was a teacher. Every moment of fear was a lesson in courage. Later, she met Lena at a small cafe. They sat near the window, laughing softly over 2 cups of coffee. Lena said, "Emma, your English sounds so natural now." Emma smiled. "Thank you. But I still make mistakes." Lena laughed. "Me too. But we don't care anymore." Emma nodded. "Exactly. We speak, we learn, we move forward." Lena looked thoughtful. You know what's funny? When I make mistakes, I remember your story. It makes me feel better. Emma smiled. Then my mistakes were not useless. They both laughed, their voices mixing with the soft sound of the cafe cups, spoons, and music. When Emma walked home that evening, the city lights began to glow one by one. The streets were alive again, people talking, cars passing, someone playing a guitar near the corner. She felt connected to it all. She whispered to herself, I don't need perfect English to live a beautiful life. That sentence felt like freedom. When she reached home, she opened her notebook for the last time that day. The pages were full of words, mistakes, memories, feelings. She turned to the very first page and read her goal again. I want to speak English with confidence. Then she smiled and wrote underneath it, I do. She closed the notebook gently and placed it by the window. That night, before sleeping, she recorded a short voice message for her English club friends. Hi everyone, it's Emma. I just want to say, thank you for helping me. When I started, I wanted to be perfect. Now, I just want to keep learning. Every mistake helped me grow. So, if you ever feel afraid to speak, remember this. Don't wait to be perfect. Speak today. That's how you become confident. She listened to her own recording once. Her voice sounded calm, strong, real. She smiled. This was her voice, her English voice. Mini listening practice. Repeat after Emma. Progress is more powerful than perfection. Every mistake helps me grow. Confidence is not a gift. It's practice. I don't wait to be perfect, I start today. Say these slowly with feeling. They are not just English sentences, they are your daily truth. That night, Emma dreamed of the sea. In the dream, she stood on a quiet beach, the waves touching her feet. Each wave said softly, try again, and she smiled, walking forward into the water, not afraid anymore. The next morning, when she woke up, she felt something she hadn't felt before, peace. Not excitement, not fear, just quiet peace. She knew she would keep learning English. She knew she would make new mistakes. But she also knew she would never stop. Because perfection ends the story. Progress keeps it alive. The sun was setting over the city. Golden light touched the buildings, and people hurried home with smiles, tired faces, and quiet thoughts. Emma stood outside the bookstore, looking at the world around her. She had finished her shift. Lena waved goodbye from the door. The air was soft, a little warm, a little cool, that perfect moment between day and night. Emma took a slow breath and smiled. Her life was simple now, but full of meaning. And when she thought about everything that had happened, the mistakes, the fears, the small victories, she felt proud. She remembered that first morning in the city, standing in front of the mirror, afraid to speak a single word. She remembered her teacher's voice. Confidence is not never falling. It's learning to stand up again. She remembered her notebook, every page, every line, her story written in simple English. And now she didn't need to write anymore. She was living the story. That evening, Emma walked to the same park she had visited so many times before. The trees whispered softly in the wind, and children laughed in the distance. She sat on her usual bench, the one near the small pond, and looked at her reflection in the water. This time, she didn't see the scared girl from before. She saw a woman who had grown, step by step, word by word. She whispered, I used to think confidence was a goal. Now I know it's a journey. She watched a group of people nearby, speaking English, Spanish, French, all mixed together, laughing. No one was perfect. But everyone was connected. And that, she realized, was the real beauty of language. It was not about grammar or speed or accent. It was about emotion. About being brave enough to share your thoughts, even when you don't have the perfect words. She smiled and said softly, "Language is not about showing who's better. It's about understanding each other." She opened her notebook for the last time. There was one final empty page. She wrote slowly, "Progress is the quiet power that keeps us moving. Perfection is the shadow that stops us from trying." She closed the notebook gently and placed it beside her. Then she took out her phone and pressed record, one final message for her future self and for everyone learning English around the world. Her voice was calm, confident, full of warmth. Emma's final message. Hello, my friend. If you are listening to this, maybe you are learning English too. Maybe you're afraid to speak. Maybe you feel your words are not good enough. But let me tell you something, I was like you. I forgot words. I made mistakes. I felt small. And still I learned. Because English is not about being perfect. It's about being brave enough to try. Every time you speak, you grow. Every time you listen, you learn. Every time you fall, you become stronger. So please don't wait for the perfect day, the perfect accent, the perfect sentence. Just start. Start today. Speak your truth, even if it's simple. Because one day, you'll look back and you'll realize you didn't just learn English. You learned courage. Her voice faded gently into the evening air. The recording stopped. The sky turned deeper orange, then pink, then soft blue. The first stars appeared above the trees. Emma looked up, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you, English. You helped me find myself." She stood up, picked up her notebook, and began walking home calm, confident, ready for whatever came next. As she walked, she repeated one last thought in her mind. Progress is peace. Perfection is pressure. I choose peace. Final listening and speaking practice. Repeat slowly after Emma. I choose progress over perfection. I am not afraid of mistakes. I learn something every time I speak. Confidence grows when I try. My English doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Now say them again softly to yourself. Feel every word. You're not just practicing English, you're practicing courage, hope, and patience. The story ends here, but your journey continues. Just like Emma, you will have good days and hard days. You will forget words. You will find new ones. You will fall and then rise again. That's progress. That's learning. That's life. So keep speaking. Keep listening. Keep growing. Because your voice matters exactly as it is. Voiceover. You've been listening to JBC English Learning Academy. If this story touched your heart, listen again. Repeat. Practice. And remember, focus on progress, not perfection. Because confidence lives inside every word you dare to speak.